There's a 1970 Dodge Charger sitting in a junkyard right now that could survive a crash your brand new sedan wouldn't. That sounds impossible, but the truth is more complicated than you think. For decades, people have believed old cars were tougher, simpler, more honest machines, built when craftsmanship mattered. Steel was thicker, engines were bigger, everything felt solid when you slammed the door. But modern cars crumple like tin cans in accidents, leading millions to assume we've gone soft. The reality flips that assumption on its head. What looks like weakness is actually advanced engineering designed to save your life. Yet the old cars weren't wrong. They were just solving a different problem entirely. The story begins in the 1950s, when American automakers prioritized style and power over almost everything else. Cars from that era used thick steel frames and solid body panels because manufacturing technology was limited and fuel was cheap. Weight wasn't a concern, safety wasn't even a word people associated with cars. Then, 1959 happened. A Cornell University researcher named Samuel Williams conducted side-by-side crash tests comparing American cars to European models. The American cars looked barely damaged. The European cars were destroyed. But here's the twist. The crash test dummies inside the American cars suffered catastrophic injuries, while the European dummies walked away relatively unharmed. Same impact speed, 35 miles per hour. Results, opposite outcomes. That single study changed nothing immediately. Through the 1960s, automakers kept building heavy, rigid cars because that's what sold. A 1967 Chevy Impala weighed over 3,800 pounds with a full steel frame that could absorb incredible punishment. If you hit a tree, the tree lost. If you hit another car, the other car lost. But the people inside often didn't survive. What's worse, a car that crumples or a body that does? The turning point came in 1966 when Congress passed the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act. For the first time, the federal government mandated safety standards. Seat belts became required, dashboards had to be padded, steering columns needed to collapse on impact. But the fundamental philosophy hadn't shifted yet. Through the 1970s and 80s, engineers began understanding crumple zones. The concept was simple but revolutionary. Let the car absorb impact energy so the passenger compartment doesn't have to. A modern car is designed to brake in specific ways, channeling force away from the people inside. By the 1990s, computer modeling allowed precise engineering of these zones. A 1995 Honda Accord could predict exactly how much force each body panel would absorb and where it would fold. The car looked totaled after a 40-mile-per-hour crash. The occupants walked away with minor injuries. An equivalent 1970 Dodge Dart might have looked repairable, but the driver would likely be dead. The most compelling evidence comes from offset crash tests, where only part of the front end hits a barrier. When the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety tested a 1959 Chevrolet Bel Air against a 2009 Chevrolet Malibu in 2009, the results were shocking. The Bel Air's passenger compartment collapsed completely. The dummy's head hit the steering wheel with lethal force. The Malibu's cabin stayed intact. The dummy had minor leg injuries. Modern cars also use high-strength steel in strategic locations. A 2020 Toyota Camry has more actual steel protection around the passenger cell than a 1970 Camaro had in its entire body, despite weighing only slightly more. The difference is placement and metallurgy. Old cars used the same thickness everywhere. New cars use ultra-high strength steel only where needed and softer energy-absorbing materials everywhere else. Federal crash test data from the NHTSA database, 1978 to 2024, the numbers don't lie. In 1975, the vehicle occupant death rate in America was 3.35 per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. By 2019, it had dropped to 1.11 despite higher speeds and more traffic.
But old cars did have genuine advantages in specific scenarios. A 1968 Ford F-100 pickup truck with a solid steel bumper could push another vehicle or survive minor parking lot impacts without damage. Modern plastic bumper covers crack if you back into a pole at 3 miles per hour. That frustrates owners but has nothing to do with actual crash protection.